I've got the Oklahoma Joe's Highland fired up, and today I'm going to be making smoked pork ribs with homemade root beer barbecue sauce, or root beer ribs. So what we're working with today are some St. Louis cut spare ribs. Now, this is one rack. I have two other racks. I'm gonna go ahead and get this one rubbed up, then I'll get the others rubbed up and we'll get them out on the Oklahoma Joe's Highland. Now, there's still quite a bit of moisture on the surface of these ribs, as you can see, so I don't need to use a binder here. If you want to use a binder, go ahead. And the rub I'm using today is a little bit different. I'm using 50-50, 50% brown sugar and 50% of a commercial rub that I just chose. The rub I chose is a Flaps 20 Thriller rub. I really like this. It's got a little bit of a savory sort of flavor to it, and that's gonna mix really well with the brown sugar and that root beer barbecue sauce we're gonna be putting on later. So really just pick your favorite commercial rub and mix it with the same amount of brown sugar. I have 8 tablespoons of brown sugar and 8 tablespoons of Thriller rub today. So I'm gonna go ahead and start rubbing these ribs. Don't need a super heavy coating of rub because we're going to get a lot of flavor from that root beer barbecue sauce. I've already removed the membrane from these ribs. That's all I'm looking for, just a light rub on these. I'm going to go ahead and finish rubbing up the others, and then we'll head out to the Oklahoma Joe's Highland. So the ThermoWorks smoke is showing that the Oklahoma Joe's Highland is at 276. Perfect. My target temperature today is right around 275. So let's get these ribs on. So I have my ambient temperature probe set up about mid-rack here towards the front of the cook chamber. And I have 2 small water pans at the far end of the cook chamber nearest the smokestack. You can see that I have a rack that's been cut in half, and I've placed that closer to the firebox side. That's actually a little less trimmed up. It's a little closer to a full spare than to a St. Louis cut, so that one's kind of just an extra rack today. These 2 St. Louis racks are really the stars of the show today. So let's go ahead and get this lid closed and start smoking. Let's check our firebox and see how we're doing down here. Now we're smoking with hickory today. You see I've got a couple pieces in there that have already burned down after that initial load of charcoal to get us going. I think it's time to add another piece. Now some of you may be saying, hey, there's bark on that wood. Don't you strip the bark off before you use it? You know what? If there's no bark on it, or if the bark comes off easily, I'll just rip it off. But in the nearly 100 cooks I've done on this Oklahoma Joe's Highland, using both wood with bark and without, I've never noticed a difference, and no one who ate the food ever noticed a difference. So I don't obsess over it. If the bark comes off easily, I take it off. We are going good here. Let's get our lid closed on the firebox so we can make some good smoke. And as you can see down here on the firebox, I have the firebox door cracked maybe 5 inches. The damper door is fully open. And as this fire settles in, I'll probably end up closing that door, right so we can keep that 275 range of fire. So we're gonna let this go for a couple hours before we check it to see if we need to spritz it, probably somewhere around the 3-hour mark, depending on the tenderness of these racks. I'll end up wrapping them, and that'll probably go for an hour, hour and a half. Then we're gonna unwrap them, glaze them with that root beer barbecue sauce. We'll put them back on the cooking grate, let them go for another 30 to 45 minutes so that root beer barbecue sauce glaze can set. Now you may be saying, what about this homemade root beer barbecue sauce? Well, the good thing is, I made it yesterday so all those flavors could meld. And if I think about it, I can almost remember making it. All right, so the first ingredient for our root beer barbecue sauce is ketchup, 1 cup of ketchup. And we're gonna be putting this into a medium saucepan. We're also gonna add about a 1/4 cup of honey. Next, we're gonna add 1 cup of root beer. Pick your favorite root beer. We've got a teaspoon of ground black pepper, not cracked black pepper. We want the finely ground black pepper. 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. We're gonna add 1 tablespoon of mustard. I'm using a yellow mustard. You could use Dijon, any kind you want, but yellow is pretty basic. So just about a tablespoon. 1 tablespoon of molasses. And we're just gonna stand here for a while until this drains out. A teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. A teaspoon of paprika. And our final ingredient, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Now we're gonna set our burner to medium-low heat, and we're gonna stir all our ingredients. We're gonna bring this up to a simmer, and then we're gonna let it simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes until it reduces a bit. All right, we're just starting to simmer here. I'm gonna give it a quick little stir. Then I wanna make sure that our temperature is not too high because we wanna keep this at a low simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes. And you wanna check this and stir it every minute or two to make sure nothing is burning on the bottom. There's a lot of sugars in here. All right, we've been going for about 15 minutes here. We've got a nice simmer going. You can see that this has reduced nicely. You can also see that there might be some little globules of mustard that didn't dissolve. That's fine. You could leave those in there. They're not gonna hurt anything. I'm gonna be straining this and putting it into a jar that's gonna go in the refrigerator overnight for the ribs that I'm gonna be making tomorrow. And I can almost imagine what tomorrow might be like. All right, we are 2 hours in. As you can see, the pit temperature dropped in the last 10 minutes, so it's time to add wood and time to check these ribs. Got half our ribs in sun, half not in sun. Let's just see, I'm just curious flex-wise how we're doing. Oh yeah, we got a lot of flex here after 2 hours. We're doing good. I think we're actually ready to wrap these, move this along. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna be wrapping these in pink butcher paper today. Just wanna add a little bit of moisture here. This is a 50-50 mix of water and apple juice. Just a little bit. And I'm going to actually turn these over as I wrap them here. That allows the fold to be on the bottom when we put them back on the Oklahoma Joe's Highland. All right, I'm gonna get the others wrapped up, and then we're gonna add some wood to that firebox. All right, let's get this closed up and add some wood. Oh yeah, we were pretty well burned down there. So we're gonna add some hickory wood. Now you may be saying, why add wood when you've got everything wrapped? You could use charcoal here, but we're gonna need a wood fire for the end of this process when that glaze is on the ribs. So we're gonna keep going with wood. Get 2 sticks of hickory in there. Knock a little bit of the ash down here. We get good airflow. All right, our hickory's catching. We're gonna close the firebox, let these ribs keep cooking. We're gonna check them in about an hour. All right, our pit temp is about 256, dropped a little bit. We hit a high of 303 in this last phase here. So let's check these ribs in the wrap and see how they're doing. Oh, look at those beauties. Paper. So let's just do a quick check here with, yeah, it is bending quite easily here if you can see. So it's time to glaze these. So I'm going to transfer these over to a tray and we're going to get some of that Root Beer BBQ Sauce on them. You can see here the pullback we have on the bone, which is perfect. Now I just got to turn these over without them falling apart. Glaze these with our homemade Root Beer BBQ Sauce. Looking good. These almost look like big baby back ribs. Now I'm not going to bother glazing the back. These are really delicate right now. I don't want them to fall apart. It's going to take a little effort to get them back on the rack without coming apart, but we'll do it. All right, that one's ready. I'm going to get that back on the rack, get the others glazed, and then we're going to keep smoking these. All right, we're going to add a little bit more hickory in just a second here, but these ribs are probably about 30 to 45 minutes from being done. So let's get the lid closed and let them finish up. Let's check our fire here. Yeah, we're burned down pretty good. Let's go ahead and get another piece of hickory in here. We're going to let our piece of hickory catch. All right, our piece of hickory is catching. We're going to close this up and see you back here in about half an hour. right, our ribs have been on here glazed for about 35 minutes actually, so let's take a look and see. Oh yes, those are beauties. I don't even need to probe these just from the tenderness before, and I can, the flex, if I lift those, they're gonna snap in half. These ribs are done. I'm gonna get these inside and we're gonna have a taste. All right, here are our hickory smoked ribs with homemade root beer sauce glaze. Gotta tell you, this is just beautiful. It smells great. And I wanna brush a little bit more of this homemade root beer barbecue sauce on. It's just got such a nice color when you put this on there, and I know it tastes great already. I tasted the barbecue sauce. Haven't tasted the ribs yet. So let's cut into these. Now I'm gonna try and do it without flipping them over, because I really don't like to flip ribs over and slice when you can see the bone easily, because I think you lose all the stuff on top here, and it just looks good. I wanna keep it that way. One, cut a few of those. Oh yes. We do have a nice little bit of a smoke ring there. Now when you're wrapping them, you're not gonna get as deep a smoke ring, and we wrapped them at about 2 hours and 20 minutes. It was actually a little bit beyond 2 hours when I look back at the clock. The total cook time from start to finish on this was just under 4.5 hours with the wrapping and with that last little bit while we're setting the glaze. But these look really good. It's time to taste. And I'm just gonna go straight in right now, gloves and all, because it's gonna be a little bit messy. So let's see. Oh, really getting a nice punch of that hickory. And I gotta tell you, with pork ribs especially, I just think hickory is the best wood to go. You can use whatever wood you want, but I really love hickory with pork spare ribs and baby back ribs in St. Louis, anything like that. Now, if you want these fall apart tender, I'd go about 30 to 45 minutes split between the time when it's wrapped and when it's glazed at the end there. But I like there to be a bite with my ribs, so when you take that bite, you pull away from the bone. It doesn't just fall apart as you hold it. Let's get another bite here. Oh man. So you can see what I mean. It comes away from the bone easily when you take a bite. That's how I like my ribs. I gotta tell you, that root beer barbecue sauce is really nice. That little extra at the end here, but you actually get the flavor a little bit deeper because we did that glaze, and it's really good. Doing ribs like this with a homemade sauce just really adds a sort of nice personal touch to them. They come out tasting the way you really want, and that root beer barbecue sauce, I gotta say, it is a killer sauce. So if you like the flavor of root beer, and you like barbecue sauce, and you like ribs, I just gave you a way to put all three of those things together. I gotta tell you, super tender, super juicy, great smoke flavor. These are fantastic ribs. I think you should give them a try. Oh yeah.